seconds. Right. All sorted. Well, if a disaster happens to either of us, we can just dive into the other one's picture.
The Scottish Football Social Club is brought to you by McBookie.com. Take a lookie at McBookie today.
Good evening. Look, there's Michael almost sorted there in the interview room. It is Monday. It's another Scottish Football Social Club with a twist on Premier Sports in association with McBookie, because it's a really busy few hours ahead on Premier Sports tonight. We've got the Dundee Derby live. We can't wait for that. Alan and Michael are in Dens already. They are so committed to this show, they're doubling up tonight. Nothing to do with the fact that Al's getting a double fee. Is that right, Al?
Leave it out. I wish.
Oh, I love the commitment. I really do. Listen, we've got highlights from the fourth round of the Scottish Cup for you. Not all the games, because we're never going to get through them all. We've got a few games for you. We've also got a special guest waiting in the wings, so let's bring him in right now if we can. The Hibernian manager, David Gray, is with us tonight. David, thank you very much for doing this tonight, especially because apparently you were about to get a rare evening off.
I don't know about that. My 3 kids are running riot behind me here, so there'll be no night off, that's for sure. But thanks for having me on. It's good to be here. Great
to see you. I know those pains of kids running around. Let me tell you, it's happening just outside that door right now. We've got so much to talk to you about. So we're delighted to have you on now at this point in the season, because it feels like all is pretty well at Hibs right now. And there's a bit of momentum at the moment.
There was no chance I was coming on a few weeks ago, that's for sure. I've been hiding for a while. So, no, obviously it's amazing. The turnaround in the last few weeks has been great. It's something, listen, we've been quietly confident about, but the reality situation was the results weren't good enough, the position we were in the league, and you can't hide away from that. So it's been challenging, but listen, we've demonstrated how quick it can change in a positive way, which is great.
Yeah, it's looking a lot rosier at the moment. And we've got your highlights from the weekend, the game against Clydebank. We can show you those goals now. We can kind of relive that if you want. A competition which you know so well, you love. And when you're playing a team like Clydebank and you know everyone's watching to find out, is there going to be an upset? This really helps, doesn't it? An early goal.
It certainly does. You know, that's everything we talked about before the game in terms of, can you score as quick as you can? The longer the game goes on, their game plan was clearly going to be to try and frustrate us and slow the game down. So to score at either end, straight after half-time and straight at the start of the game, really calmed everybody down. I think from that point of view, first half we were maybe a little bit slow. We'd have liked us to be better. But certainly was job done in the end. Everyone got through the game, got minutes in the game. Nobody got any injuries, didn't pick anything up from that front. And we're in the next round, which is the most important thing.
It really is. And also you've got the luxury in the game of bringing off from the bench, bringing on, I should say, 16-year-olds in Lewis Gilly. It must be so nice as a manager to be able to give young players like that their moment, to give them their debut, to get them going.
Absolutely. I think, listen, the club's done that for many years as well. You know, a lot of young players have came through the club. And to give Lewis Gilly his debut on Saturday was brilliant. It's a day he'll remember for the rest of his life. You know, I think Mikey and Alan will both say the same. They'll remember their debut, and it'll be the day that they'll remember for the rest of their lives. And I think even looking at the squad we've got at the moment, you've got Rudy Milotnikov this season. I was fortunate enough to give him his debut last year in the Europa League conference against Aston Villa for him that night. You know, and then this season he's really kicked on and found himself in the first team squad, doing really well. And he was good at the weekend as well. He got minutes for first time for a wee while, contributed in a real positive way, which is great for everyone, but also good for, you know, the younger players in the academy, seeing other players getting the opportunity and taking their opportunity, and being at a club where if they are good enough and if they keep developing, they will get a chance, which is good.
Alan, do you remember your debut? It was at some point in the early 80s?
Honestly, what is it with you? It was terrible. It was at Partick Thistle, and I remember getting taken off at half-time. So not an ideal, but I got slightly better.
Good. Michael, on your debut, I assume you were booked within the first 5-10 minutes?
Aye, very good, Darryl. Aye. No. Well, actually, I'm trying to remember it. There you go. Dave's just saying you can't forget it, but I'm struggling to remember it. I do remember the league debut, though. I remember that. I was at the Riverside against Middlesbrough. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, very interesting. A funny wee story, actually, before we go. Obviously, Dennis Law's passed away just this week. Di Law, his daughter, she was the press secretary at United that David will remember for a long time. And I didn't know that I was starting the game. The gaffer had told me at the meeting in the morning that I'd be starting, and I was panicking, thinking, "Oh, my folks are never going to, know, and they're never going to be able to get to the game." And he was like, "Don't worry, Di's been in contact with your folks. They know they're on their way down to the game." So Di Lord had sorted that out for me.
Classy. I like it. Right, let's get back to Hibs then. I know this is such an important point of the season, David, because it is going well, but now you need to keep it going. And you also, of course, all managers, they want to strengthen their squad in January. All the Hibs fans who are probably tuned in right now probably want to ask the same question. What business do you think could get done? And how is that business working at the moment? Because I know there's a slightly different structure to the football club.
Yeah, I think the challenge is always to try and end the window in a more positive place than when you started. I think that's clear. The work's never ending. We're trying to obviously look at targets all the time and try and strengthen in areas which, if we think something can be done that will make us better, we'll be looking to do that. We've also got the luxury of the benefits of players coming back from long-term injuries. Kieran Bowie managed to get minutes at the weekend, which is a huge plus. He's been out for a number of months, which is a blow for him. Especially when he first joined the club, he was desperate to do well when he first came. Started well with a few cameo appearances and then picked up that injury. So players like him coming back, feel like new signings. We've also got Joe Newell, who's been out at the moment. Miko, centre forward, been out for a while. Ellie Yuhan to add to that list as well. And the only one that's probably going to be slightly longer is Marvin Equiteta. But these are all key members of our squad. So to have them back, and hopefully in a few weeks rather than anything else, that'll be a real boost for us as well. And if we can add to that something that makes the squad better, then hopefully, as I've just touched on there, we can end the window in a much stronger place than when we started it, which is the key.
I know the guys have got loads of questions, but just a couple more from me from now. Is anything close? You don't have to tell us what, but do you think anything's close for the fans to look out for?
No, I think we're always looking. I think you're always trying to move things on. I know that's the political answer you're always going to get from me at this stage, but whilst the window's open, you always need to be proactive. You need to be moving all the time. And I do expect there to be movement before the window closes. And I think as it goes on, the closer you get towards the end of the window, you do see things happening a lot more and a lot quicker. So I do expect there to be movement, yeah.
I took that as a yes.
Yeah, that is a yes.
A definite. First question I've got for Dave is a personal one. I just wondered if his 8-year-old is as much of a lunatic as my 8-year-old.
Absolutely. Well, to be honest, he's probably the most mild in my 3, to be honest.
Do you remember?
I've got 2 girls either side. I do remember, yeah. I remember it well.
David's 8-year-old is probably minutes older than mine. He was walking out of the ward as we were walking in. And it was through the doors and it was like, "Oh, how you doing? Yeah, congratulations." I remember it well. Minutes apart, 8-year-old.
Yeah, I remember it well. He's actually enjoying his football now as well. He loves his football. So he's right into going to the games now. We obviously massive Hibs supporter, knows all the players better than me, knows everything about it. It's fantastic. So no, he's loving life in terms of being involved in the football.
On a football side things.
Go on, Michael.
I was just going to say, obviously, Gavin Stewart's just come into the club. What is his role and how closely working are you, Malky, and the rest of the board? What is the actual makeup of that now with him coming in?
Yeah, well, you obviously got Malky's been there since I joined the club. Obviously, he's the sporting director, and then Gavin's came in as head of recruitment. So between everyone involved at the football club, the process, obviously bringing Gavin in is great because of the knowledge he's got, the experience he's got, and the network he's obviously got as well. Having worked for so long down south, so that was great to be able to bring him into the club. And straight away, you're seeing the targets that he's identifying and the work that's going on all the time. Naturally, when everyone talks about it now when the window's been open, but the work is never really ending all the time. You're always preparing for the next window coming up and what the squad looks like. You've already discussions about the end of the season and what that looks like, because we're in a bit of a real transitional season, not just because it's my first sort of job in the role, but also because of the amount of players that have been out of contract at the end of this season and players were brought in at the start of the season. So, there's a lot of moving parts that we always need to be proactive with. And I think that's the key to it. It's about making sure we are working really close every day. But my obviously role within it, they'll be doing the work every day, and I'll be dipping in and out and making sure we're all on the same page. And that's where we are right now, to be honest, which is working really well.
As a young manager, David, it's interesting because there's so many different styles. There's so many different styles of recruitment these days. And in some clubs, as you know, it's the manager who wants to recruit the players and identify them. Obviously, when you've got head of recruitment like Gavin Stewart and Malky Mackay and others working, I'm sure they're helping a lot. How does it work though? Do you get to identify some players that you quite fancy and put them on a list? Do they bring a list to you, and do you get the final say? How does that all the process? How does it actually finalise in the end when you're getting a player over the line?
Yeah, it's a bit of everything you just touched on there. So at times there'll be players that I know myself and I've identified. There's at times when it might just be when you look at, we need position X, and position X would be a position we want to fix or want to look to improve or need to be ready to replace. And then they'll go away, draw up the list as well from a data point of view, but also if it can be done. You've also got the knowledge and experience with Malky overseeing that as well, which is great. So altogether we come up with a list of what we believe as targets that can make us better in their positions. And then ultimately, collectively, we decide who we think's the best one, and I'll have the say at the very end, is just to say, well, there's your 1, 2, 3, 4 targets for position X. Put them in a sort of order which you would like them to be done in. Now, it's not always like go and get number one. It's the ideal scenario. It doesn't always work like that clearly because circumstances, there's always other interest from other clubs. And then you have to take into account the financial side. It can it be done, what that looks like, and does it benefit the football club? So it is a process that you go through to try and make sure. I mean, ultimately, you want to try and get as many of these new recruits right, because you're always judged on that, and then you're going to be judged by how quickly they can settle in. So there's lots of things you can take into consideration, and it is a real process that it's not just as simple as I really like that player, let's go and get him. That's for sure.
Go on, Alan. Sorry,
Daryl, I just wanted to ask you, you're obviously in a much better position now, personally, in terms of the way you must feel about things. But from like a couple of months ago, do you now look back upon that and feel that it was actually been beneficial to go through, those tough couple months at the start? And how did you cope with it? Was there anybody that you picked the phone up to seek a bit of advice from, or were you just really internalising it? How, give me just a wee bit of an idea of how tough that was. Who did you speak to? What did you do? How did you manage to get through it? Because it was an extremely difficult period of time.
It was really difficult. I think the biggest thing I tried to do throughout the whole process was not to be too high or too low throughout it all. I never ever liked to use an excuse either, so I was always conscious of that as well. I could have looked at a number of things about me joining late, about late recruitment, all the things that we talked about that was going to be a challenge. And one thing I did say was I knew there was going to be a lot of short-term pain initially. I didn't think it would be as long as it was in terms of results. Absolutely not. And the position, and I always say that it was my responsibility for the position we found ourselves in as a club. It wasn't good enough for the players we had. But I also was quietly confident that if given the time, and I still always felt the belief for the players every day going into work, that there was a real collective there. They knew if we could get it right, we would be a real good side. And I think that's what we start to see now. So I did always have the belief that we would turn it round. Difficult though when you're going through the periods, especially when we found ourselves at the bottom of the league. Everyone talking about your job, and I was finding myself a lot of the time answering the same questions, but trying to be consistent with it. So as I say, not looking for excuses, looking at how can I make us better, how do I fix this issue, and I think the staff was really important throughout that as well. They really helped with that, sticking together, making sure we would keep believing in what we were doing, and then the support I got from above, from the football club. As much as it'll be the conversations that go on when you have board meetings and things like that, there was constant communication throughout the whole process about what we're trying to do, and then obviously I needed them to believe in what I was doing, so I'm able to then try and demonstrate why I believed it was going to turn, which probably gave me the time to be able to turn it around. And then obviously very grateful for that now, because when you look at the results and performances we've got now, a lot of that was down to obviously getting a little bit of confidence from that big goal against Aberdeen in the last minute. That was a huge turning point in our season so far. And then the momentum and belief that came off the back of that has really snowballed, and I think we're really benefiting from that now.
I thought Alan had taken the major hump there because you didn't let him in there, Michael, and he signed out.
Honestly,
thankfully, there's Michael away now, but Alan's back in this. Go on, Alan. I know you've got some questions for Dave. What do you want to ask him?
No, it was just because you brought that Aberdeen situation up there. I just really felt that was a massive turning point. And I know you would always have the belief in the group, but did you have to say anything to them after that? Because even the Celtic game, I thought you were really good. Ultimately, you didn't win it, but from there, you just went from strength to strength.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think straight after the game, we've been on the receiving end of that so many times this season, the amount of points we lost for winning positions. And, people pegging you back and getting a point out of the game, but almost feeling like a defeat late on in the game. The Aberdeen game was so much more than just a point to the players, because it was, yes, we only got the 1 point for the goal in the last minute, but we had to then use that as the turning point. So the next game after that was Motherwell away, and that was the message to the players before the game was, this has to be the turning point. You can't go and do what we've done in that game and then let ourselves down against Motherwell. So we needed to back that up. And then from that, we went and delivered a 3-0, obviously, victory away from home, which was a big result for us. And then that's when the confidence starts to come. The players start believing in themselves a little bit more, because, as I said, I never ever doubted what I seen in training or the belief within the group. But it was always just maybe not being quite clinical enough, or individual errors. Individual errors sometimes come from a lack of belief in yourself rather than, for 90 minutes or 89 minutes of the game being really good in the game. So I think there was that balance. And also keeping 11 players on the pitch. We suffered for that quite a bit early on in the season. But I think when we have put sort of more full performances together, we've demonstrated we're a really good side, and we've got good players that can really be effective in the league. And I think that's where the confidence has came and we've really kicked on from.
Well, I've got to say that I think you've handled yourself pretty well, because some of those individual errors that were happening early in the season, I would imagine, would be hugely frustrating, and to keep the squad on side and not be like hammering them to a certain extent, because ultimately it was costing the results. I take my hat off to you, because I'll be honest, I didn't see the squad as it is capable of having the reaction that they've had. So credit to them and credit to you, because I think it's been, we were here at Dens Park when the capitulation happened at 4-1, and obviously that next game after that was the Aberdeen 3-3, and it was there for all to see. There was a reaction, there was a bit of bite and a grit and a determination that I didn't see coming. So, credit to you, because it's been a quite incredible turnaround at this point.
Plus, Michael, remember, I backed them in the Derby game. You were unsure, remember? You were sat on the fence. I said, Hibs are going to do this. They're going to go on a run, and it's exactly what happened. But you weren't quite there yet, were you?
It's true, Dave. And by the way, you don't often get much praise.
True.
Dave, so just
it's all
take
true.
It tonight, will you?
It's all true.
Fictitious nonsense from you. I think if
I'll start throwing these tangerines at you that are sitting next to me anymore.
I've got the balls here for the draw later on.
Hold on.
I was wondering what you're going to say there. You managed to turn that around quite well there, Mike.
There's number one. Number one.
I can't believe there's tangerines in Dens.
That's what I got when I turned up. That's what I got.
Incredible. Dave, I won't keep you much longer, but
Michael, I've got one thing to say. I actually backed Hibs in the derby. I said they would win.
Oh, listen, it's all coming out now.
Is that not true?
Listen, let's use our time with Dave wisely. It's just, listen, it's bygones. It's in the past, Michael. Move on, okay? Move on. Dave, Michael mentioned this, but I'm just wondering, is there someone, because when things are not going well, you kind of phone for advice. I've spoken to so many managers down the years, and they all seem to have somebody, whether it's a Sir Alex, father figure they phone, they can lift up that, or a bit of advice. Is there someone for you, someone you've worked with in the past that you can turn to?
There is, to be honest. There's a few previous managers I've worked with previously. I do seek advice for them at times. People who have been the course. My dad, to a certain extent, because he's probably my biggest critic, as much as he obviously praises me all the time behind closed door. But when it's just me, he's very hard on me at times, which is good, which has always been the way with me. And then I think, when I then really think about it, there's people not even just involved in football, that business-related people, I've been through highs and lows, and just friends that I trust that would give me advice and counsel along the way that have really been beneficial for me. I think not always being involved in football and being involved in other things, areas in which you can ask them questions and going through adversity and how to deal with that. And I think in a few months, years down the line, or whenever my career ends in terms of football and management, I think how early I went through such adversity in my career, I'll hopefully be a really good time moving forward, because I've definitely learned a lot in such a period of time this season already. And even just since when I think back to when I decided to retire from playing 3 years ago, or 3.5 years ago, it is now, and all the different managers I've managed to work under in such a short period of time. I've learned a lot from a lot of very good people. But throughout that, you've got Jack Ross, Sean Maloney, Lee Johnson, and Nick Montgomery, but they all had coaches and staff that they brought with them to the football club. And they all have very different views of what they believe it should be done, or how they'd like it to be done, let's just say. So, I've been gaining that knowledge and experience along the way and trying to frame it into how I believe a successful Hibs team looks like initially. And I think you also form friendships and relationships with them, and I keep in touch with them and speak to them about things because they've lived it as well. So, the more people you can speak to, the better.
Good. And I know you've got some tough games ahead as well. Ross County away next. You want to keep that momentum going. In February, I'm looking, you've got Aberdeen, at St Mirren against Celtic, both live in Premier Sports, by the way, at Dundee United. Some tough games to come, but at the moment, why not dream big? Because the way the season's turning around, can you shoot for the stars and think European football, bring it back? Why not?
No, I think in the short term, we just need to try and catch the team in front of us. We've kind of had to go down that route. I know that sounds all cliche, just win the next game, but because we were bottom of the league not too long ago, it was about catching the team in front of us and trying to turn this around as quickly as we could. We've thankfully put ourselves in a very good position now where this is still everything we wanted to do at the start of the season still achievable. We've demonstrated how quickly it can turn in a positive way, but the message is very clear to me all the time to the players that can also go the other way. So we need to guard against complacency. And I think, going up to Ross County, it'll be a challenge. It always is when you go up there. It'll be a difficult game. But it's a game that we are capable of going and winning if we can play to our maximum. And that's the challenge to the players again. Can we go up there and try and get another 3 points? And if we can do that, we'll put ourselves in a real good position. I know a lot of the teams will play each other this weekend. And when you look at the league, how quickly it changes. I think if we go back to the St Johnstone game, I think before the game, if we had won, we'd have been 5th, I think. But if we had lost, we were 3 points off 11th. That's how tight it's been. So, which is good for the league. I'm sure from a neutral point of view, looking at it, a few enjoyable games, and I think the closer it gets towards that split, I think it's 10 games before the split, we've got a target in our mind that we need to get to ensure we're in that top 6, and I think naturally everyone who's in that top 6, if they can put a run together between now and then, will be close enough to try and challenge for the top 3 or 4 places.
First class. I'm loath to let you go, by the way, because Michael and Alan, their Wi-Fi's a shambles. I don't know how much longer the programme will last without you, but I promise 15 to 20 minutes, and there's 21 in the clock. So, listen, all the very best. We'll see you soon anyway, Dave. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Real pleasure to speak to you. Have a great night. Go and deal with the kids.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me on. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All the best.
Bye-bye.
Michael, I know you know David very well, but he has maintained this sort of air of calmness, even when everything else around him was maybe, going absolutely crazy this season and other people were losing the plot. He absolutely kept the calmness, and you can still feel it right now, can't you?
Yeah, and I think obviously results are hugely important in terms of framing that as well, because if the poor run of results had continued, then it just exacerbates it even more, and it becomes more difficult to maintain a level of calmness. But even certainly for the length of time that it went on, sitting bottom of the table, the pressure and the scrutiny is huge. And I do think that he handled himself very well, not just in terms of with the media and outwardly. He must have cleared, and that was why I was trying to make the point there. He must have been handling it very well internally, because had he not, he would have lost the changing room, and he wouldn't have had the reaction that he got. So credit to him, because that can't be easy when you're just a manager for the first time. As much as you've experienced things as a player, and then having seen things as a coach, as he was talking about there, when you're the man, when you're the main guy, and you're the man in charge, it's all on your shoulders. And I think he handled the pressure extremely well.
Not easy at all, Alan, especially when, speaking of dens, especially when your strikers out there doing keepy-uppies after someone's been sent off, and that's all the talking point of that. And you're trying to get your head together, and Michael's right, the next game was Aberdeen, Alan, and we said in the show, you wonder, that last-minute Bashiri goal, could it be the turning point? It feels like it is the turning point, and it doesn't feel like Hibs are going to slip back again, but you never know. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. I just think if you look back at the games that's passed, I felt it was a real turning point after the Dundee game, going into the Aberdeen massive goal towards the end. I even look at the Celtic game. I thought they had so many chances within that to try and get something out of it. Didn't quite work out. But the run that they've been on and where they're at this moment in time, you look at like Martin Boyle, the Cadden twins, Triantis, all these guys are playing at a high level. And I think it's really helping at this moment in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, really good to have him on the show tonight. Let's get into some of the other Scottish Cup highlights. We just mentioned that Hibs are playing Ross County away next. Ross County, maybe the one big surprise over the weekend, or was it, Michael? I don't know. Livingston going up north and knocking Ross County out the cup. Full credit to David Martindale and his men. I think we've got the goals to show you as well, but good performance from them. Ross County in the end couldn't find a way through to the next round.
Well, I mean, it's obviously it had to be for them to be able to get through, but I mean, there's a few things. A surprise, yes, but it's not like a giant kill. It's not a massive surprise. Livy are obviously doing well at the top of the championship. Ross County, although saying it's not a massive surprise, you would have expected them to win that one. Top flight.
They've been going well.
Yeah, top flight side. Over the piece under Don Cowie, good record at home, but of late it seems to have sort of flipped in their away forms. The one that's picked up. But yes, I would have expected Ross County to win, especially 2-0 down, to come back and get themselves level. You would have felt as if the momentum was with them, and then staring at penalties, and Andrew Shinnie comes up and knocks them out of the cup. So credit to Livy for that. That's a huge result for them. Massively disappointing for Don Cowie and County, obviously.
Yeah, late drama in Dingwall. We'll keep pressing forwards. Alan, Celtic Park was actually a really good cup tie in the end. Celtic knocking Kilmarnock out, a side you see a lot of. It was 2-1 in the end. In the early stages of this game, you thought, well, Celtic are going to run away with it, but you've got to give Killie a fair bit of credit as well for the way they hung in, and it was in the balance right into those final few seconds.
Yeah, it was. I genuinely think in the first half, though, that Celtic should have been out of sight. They had so many opportunities and they didn't quite take them. Really hung in there. I thought they'd done relatively well. They had some opportunities. That's a great strike from Carl McGregor. We've seen that on numerous occasions this season. And Killie, they keep working hard to get back into it. They score a goal, and that's what you kind of expect from a Derek McInnes side. But this is the other side to it. Celtic obviously broke away. Maeda, he's got that calmness just to slot that away. So, well, Derek McInnes will be disappointed, but I think if you look at it over the piece, that Celtic deserve to go through.
Yeah. Michael, you were at the game. What do you make of Celtic right now? Because prior to that, they drew 3-3 at Dens against Dundee, and there was a few question marks. And I really asked this more in the context of the week ahead, because this European game against Young Boys could be make or break in terms of qualification. There's a huge opportunity, but right now, are Celtic close to their best, closer than they were a few weeks ago, or are there still a few question marks on that for you?
No, I think it's fair to say that they're not firing on all cylinders by any stretch of the imagination. You think about the Leipzig performance in particular at home, which was, standout. They are well and truly capable of doing it, but I think it's fair to say that they're not going into this game in a position where you would expect that performance as much as you would have perhaps a couple of months ago. And that happens at times, just a little bit of momentum, shifts throughout the season, but they're still, they're still picking up lots of, good results. Young Boys is a game that there's extra pressure because there's a level of expectation. And also, I've spoken about this for, the last month or so, the danger of just pinpointing that game and saying, okay, we'll get 3 points there and we'll get qualified at the league phase. A little bit of complacency can creep in there. And that's obviously the job of Brendan Rodgers and his coaching staff, to make sure that they are absolutely on point. I think a fast start and an early goal are pretty crucial in that game. And if that does happen, I think you could quickly see the performance that we would have expected a couple of months ago could come back quickly for Celtic. It's also why I think he put out his arguably strongest 11 against Killie, because I think he was wanting to try to build that momentum going into Wednesday night.
Yeah, you wonder if it's the same 11. Obviously, Celtic being linked with loads of different players as well. It's the January transfer window. It happens, Alan, including a young Villa youngster, a Villa player that you might know, Louis Barry. Don't know if you've seen much of him, but they're talking about £5 to £10 million to try and get this one over the line. What can you tell us about Louis Barry? Do you think he'd be a good signing?
Yeah, I think he would. I think he's very technically gifted. He can score a lot of goals. He can play in a number of positions, whether it be number 10 or as a striker. I think he gives you a different option as well to what they already have if you want to play him out wide. But he got a big move early on, and I don't really think it helped him. I think he's had to come back on a number of loans to kind of find his feet, if you will. So look, it's a lot of money. I think he'll be able to deal with it, but they would get a really good player. Somebody, as I said, that can play anywhere really along the front line and is more than capable of scoring goals. So be interesting to see if they can get it done, because it would be an excellent signing.
Seems to be a lot of competition for Louis Barry, so we'll see what happens there. Let's see how many games we can get through, Michael, before the end of the show today, because I realise you guys also have a build-up to get ready for at Dens Park.
Here's Al, just over here. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So
Don't move your phone again, because we might never see you again. I'd just leave it if I was you.
we're trying to
Michael,
rattle through this quickly.
let's press on, right? So you're not in the interview room. Is that the draw room, by the way? Because the draw's live with us later on tonight as well. Ah, yes. Is that? Yes, I did see a ball earlier on. Yes, thought you broke up a bit. But yeah, good. Right, draw area, I should call it. Let's press on, Michael. Aberdeen got a good win at the weekend. It's a good win. They're expected to win against Elgin, but when you've not won for 12 games, then you're just never sure when it's going to come. And they saw this one through pretty well, didn't they, the Dons?
Yeah, I mean, look, if they were to come away from this game out the cup on the back of the results they've had, that really would be entering, like dangerous territory, to be perfectly honest. Thankfully for Aberdeen and Jimmy Tilleen, they didn't. They got the job done, 3-0 through to the next round. And this, as much as it's a game that you would be expecting them to win, it has to be used, like David Gray was talking about, their 3-3 against Aberdeen. This has got to be used as a catalyst to get, some positive results and turn things around. Because if it doesn't, and the weekend comes around and they don't get, another 3 points, or they don't get 3 points first time in a long time, then it just feels like it's quickly forgotten about, a victory against Elgin in the cup.
Yeah, Shaden Morris scoring the first goal in the game, Alan. Every time he seems to be on the pitch, for me, he seems to do something, and yet he doesn't start that many games. They've got options, new players coming in, that'll help the squad as well. Can they kick on now? Do they need a lot more in this window, do you feel?
Possibly, but I just feel a lot of confidence would come from that game. I think Michael's right. It was really important that they got a result. Papi Gay's back as well. You've seen him. He came on as for a cameo role as well. So I think he's going to help. But Shaden Morris is explosive and he gives you a real threat out wide. So you want to see him more and you want to see him contribute more through the 90 minutes. But I think the additions that they're making will definitely help.
Kenneth Merchant agrees. Dons have made good signings in January. Early stages, it looks like some of them are going to definitely help the team. Michael, let's keep moving forward. Brecon 1, Hearts 4 on Friday night. There was a bright spark early in the game from Scott Bright. What a goal this was. And by the way, when you're playing against a team from the lower leagues, you just don't want this to happen in this sort of pitch early, Michael. But Hearts responded well.
They did. Credit to them. It wasn't instant, the good response, but this goal from Yandanda was outstanding, and the second half performance was better. Generally, it was better from Hearts. And you talk about potential banana skins. Certainly, once they're 1-0 down, playing on that park, there's a little element of fear strikes from a Hearts perspective that this could be a real banana skin, and it could be a giant killing. They handled it pretty well. I thought it wasn't scintillating, it wasn't outstanding. It was job done, and they got themselves through to the next round. And that ultimately is all that Neil Critchley could look for in that instance. An unbelievable strike though from Scott Bright to begin with.
It was. And there's new signings arriving, Michael, as well. And there's a lot of speculation about other players that are going to come. And you knew, because of the analytics and the investment coming into the football club, they were always going to do some January transfers, make some January moves, if you like. But do you feel there's a bit of positivity back about the club? Because you've questioned the manager, you've questioned the process. Do you feel now that they are definitely in a position where they'll be able to continue to pick up momentum this season with the players they're bringing in?
I don't know. I'm just being honest with you, Darryl. I don't know, and I don't think anybody can say, definitively or with real confidence. There's still a lot of unknowns about it. It's not, being hypercritical of the manager or the process or anything. There's a lot of unknowns with it, and with that, you need to see some results in regards to players coming in, manager's record, to then build up a bit of confidence and belief in what it is that they're trying to do. My criticism has been historically with the board and footballing context that I'm not overly convinced that they've made a lot of good footballing decisions. Now, they're going down this track with the analytics. The managers come in, and let's be honest, universally it was sort of looked upon as an underwhelming appointment. I don't think anything that's happened since then would suggest that you should massively alter that view. So we're now in January. It just feels like they're still second bottom. Yes, they're very close to a lot of the teams that are above them, but but I don't see this season being what it could have and should have perhaps been. So almost to me, I look forward to next season as the sort of barometer of how's this going to do. So it almost feels like this season's been a bit of a treading water, a bit wasted, really.
But Alan, we were praising David Gray earlier in the programme when he was with us about the fact that he sort of kept cool when there was a lot of criticism coming his way. And Michael, you've criticised the process, the appointment of Neil Critchley, wondered if he's the right fit. But in fairness to him, I know you're smiling, Michael, but in fairness, Alan, he's kept his head as well. And he seems to continue to speak well and believe in his own ability and back the kind of club and the way they're bringing the players in.
Yeah, but I think you have to back yourself as a manager. You're the manager of the football club for a reason, so you expect him to.
He's never lost his way at all. That's
January.
what I mean, Alan. He's never kind of lost his way. He's never lost his head. He's never thrown people under the bus. A bit like what Michael was saying earlier on. Well, that was Michael. It's straight back to you, mate, because it's 1+1 at the moment.
You threw him under the bus there. He had enough, Darryl.
I think I did. I think I really did. Listen, on that point, I think we just keep moving forward. If we get him, listen, just shout him over. If his phone's go, just shout over to you. Anyway,
come over.
Bring him in. Bring him in. Michael, should we have a quick look? I think we've only got the goal to bring you from St Johnstone against Motherwell. Yep. The Saints and Valakari needed a bit of vigour about the Saints back in this performance in the early stages, which was better. For Motherwell, though, some question marks now. Their fans are not happy the way they're playing now.
Yeah. Do you know, look, the thing with St Johnstone is, and we've already touched this on, like with Hibs, and touched on it with Aberdeen there. Absolutely. Here, come on. You can crouch down here.
I think I had your signal for your house.
Ah, yeah, very good.
That's better.
He's in.
The for St Johnstone, it's desperate for them. They have to use that game as a catalyst. Yeah. If they don't, they're destined to get relegated, and that is a disaster when you think about Adam Webb having come in, investing more money, trying to push things on. If they were to be relegated to the Championship, that is a major step backward for them. For Motherwell, yeah, it does. Motherwell's a strange one because there's a lot of, when you watch them at times, there's a lot of good elements there. But then they seem to be very sporadic. They go on like another poor run and the fans are not particularly happy. But I mean, realistically, they're in not a bad position. Yeah. They're not in a bad position, but they're out the cup, which is a sore one.
And it's 1 win in 8. The only downside of having you together, by the way, apart from the fact, Alan, you have to sit beside Michael, is that if this goes down, if this signal goes down, I'm on my own, which means I'm signing off the show. I can tell that right now.
The manager and I'm the new signing.
It does. It does. Where's the contract in front of you here? Andrew Price with a question. Come on, Alan, get your boots back on. Yeah, East Kilbride FC. Alan, would you come out of retirement, have a whirl? You look fit.
I'm not so sure. I think at this moment in time I'd last about 5 minutes. I would need about 8 weeks training at least. So
at least, mate.
If they've got the time, then possibly.
It sounded unlikely, but he's not ruled it out. Right, while we've still got you, should we have a look at Rangers defeating Fraserburgh? Took a bit of time to get going in this game, Alan. And Dessers with a hat-trick, Alan. I was a bit surprised, Alan, when I saw the team. Because I thought maybe more youngsters would be in from the start. I know Lovelace was starting the game. I thought there might be more changes, especially when you think you've got Man United ahead. Do you really want to risk anyone that might start in that match?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think it was a good opportunity to kind of put more of the younger boys through. They obviously deserve it with the first team. They're more than ready. He did bring someone later on in the game. I thought Lovelace played well. It looks dynamic. He wants to be involved in everything they do going forward. It was good to see Dessers getting a hat-trick, but of course the main thing is the game come Thursday night. You don't want to take risks, you don't have to. You would like to think within reserve they've got enough, no disrespect to Fraserburgh, but you would think that they would have enough to go and be able to compete and win the game comfortably. But look, they've done the job. It is what it is. I mean, you can only play the team that's in front of you, and they got the job done and into the next round.
Okay, Andrew Price saying 3-1, a Rangers win against Man United on Thursday. Man United are toiling at the moment. Honestly, as well. I'm not sure what to expect in this game. What do you think, Cal?
Well, I watched the Southampton game and then I seen the Brighton game, and I thought Southampton were the better team, obviously because Ahmed gets the hat-trick. They kind of get away with it. And then even the Brighton game, look, Rangers defensively, they know going down to Old Trafford, the pressure will be on Manchester United, but it's still a lot to deal with for the Rangers team. But if they can defend well, and I think it might suit them, that they're having to defend and then possibly hitting the counter, there might be space in behind them. Look, it's going to be a huge game. There's no getting away from that. It's going to be difficult, but fingers crossed, you never know.
Right, listen, I've just been told, because I was going to get some more highlights in, I've just been told that you guys have gone to the draw studio. You weren't meant to be there. They're about to rehearse the draw. We're going to have to wrap up the show. Just finally, Michael. Michael, final one then. How much are you looking forward to this Dundee derby? You're live from 7:30 tonight. How much are you looking forward to it?
Oh, massively. It's a huge game, obviously, in the Scottish football calendar. And the fact it's in the cup as well just adds an extra wee bit of bite to this game. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it big time. It was obviously a cracking game at the start of the season between the two across the road as well. Yeah, it's going to be a very, very entertaining game, I would imagine. Yeah,
and late drama at Dens last time. Dundee United scored late to win, and that was just a few weeks ago. We'll see what happens tonight. Guys, thank you very much. Somehow you got there tonight. You've ended up sitting together. Really appreciate it. We'll get you out that draw room right now so they can rehearse. 40 minutes in anyway, why not? Really looking forward to the Dundee derby tonight. As I say, up and running on Premier Sports from 7:30. Alan, Michael and the rest of the team. We're back next Monday on the Social Club. See you then. Thank you. Bye for now.
The Scottish Football Social Club is brought to you by McBookie.com. Take a lookie at McBookie today.